Hi Gemini, welcome to my channel and welcome to your reading for the month of June. So just remember, Gemini, that this is an overall reading, so it's not going to describe every situation out there. But my purpose is to help you to see what's going on with your energies. And if you feel that those are the energies that you want to continue to pursue and nurture, and then great. If not, you have the opportunity to change them. All right, Gemini. So I see you right now in your element. You know, the Queen of Pentacles here is you trying to figure out what's going on with your relationships. So I feel like in this cycle, there is a focus, Gemini. You have a focus about trying to succeed in the type of relationships that you're trying to create. And this could talk about, you know, relationships about work, relationships about friendship, relationships about love, all kinds, everything is relationships. But, you know, the idea is what do I need to do in order to feel or to attain the type of relationships that will give me the level of stability and support that I need in my life right now. And I see that you might have been in a particular situation in the recent past where you got tired of waiting for maybe somebody else making a choice. You know, it's like you waited, and I feel like there was a lot of anxiety around this particular situation because in your mind, this was one of those situations that was ideal to you because you saw it as being able to achieve the level of maybe security that in your mind and in your heart you think you need in order to succeed. I need to connect my computer to power, so give me a second, Gemini. I forgot to plug my computer. Sorry, guys. All right. Okay, we're plugged into power. So yeah, Gemini, I feel like, this particular situation was very disappointing to you. And it's still affecting you because it's making you think a lot, and it's challenging your ideas about achieving your goal or the level of strength that you need and require to achieve what you want. So now you're trying to move on and you're trying to create these new beginnings, and you're having a very difficult time because you're still caught up emotionally in the disappointments that you're bringing from the past. See the Ace of Wands here upside down and the Ace of Cups. You notice that? And then can you see the swords, 3 swords? And this whole reading, the element that is ruling the reading is the swords, which is talking about your thought patterns as well as your communication. So there's a lot of mental energy here. And you may be feeling like, well, it's just that I have these feelings of insecurity, or maybe, you're telling this to yourself, there is something that is happening within me that I'm feeling a little bit insecure because of what happened to me in the recent past. And because it may be a situation that it hasn't happened the first time, you may be dealing with similar situations for a while, that now you're starting to feel like, am I lucky enough to be able to get what I want? So it's triggering belief systems within your subconscious mind that probably comes from your childhood, and it comes from your journey in this particular lifetime of many of the experiences that you've had around this issue or similar issue to this. You see what I mean? So it's interesting how a situation like this can be a trigger, right? Can be a trigger of bringing out to the surface a lot of the insecurities that we have around a subject. But you see, the cards are saying that what's getting in your way, it's the analyzing and over-analyzing this situation. Another thing is pointing out is to your thought process. See, the Temperance card is upside down. So, like, to be able to release these doubts, right? Because I feel like there is a lingering quality with this particular swords that are showing up every time that you find yourself thinking about this particular situation or trying to figure out a way where you finally achieve the results that you're looking for in a similar situation or in this particular situation, right? So one of the things that the Oracle is saying, well, to begin to be able to change how the energy is flowing, right? So because look at this is your energy here, and this is the outcome as you continue to behave in the way that you are. So we see that making these choices, the outcome here is that you're not getting what you want, that the Wheel of Fortune, which represents change, is not changing, and that's going to make you feel more insecure. And it's not that you don't have what it takes to achieve what you want. It's just that whatever you're telling yourself in your head and inside you, your ego, right, it's giving you stories that are not necessarily true, but you're buying into them. So you could say, well, but I have plenty of proof. So you got to remember, Gemini, that whatever experiences you have in the physical world is an extension of the work that you've done inside yourself. So when you have an experience, looking at that experience is not as the conclusion of the process. Oh, because I had this experience, this is what I'm getting. So I'm not, there's nothing more to do. No, those experiences are basically reflecting back to you the thought process that you had as the magician before you were able to manifest it in the physical world. And now you get to be part of that experience and decide what feels right and what doesn't. And then what doesn't feel right, you have to change it within yourself. So that eventually you can create another opportunity where those changes that you made in your head and how you felt about them, because it's a combination of your thoughts as well as how you feel, will create the type of frequency that in the next experience, hopefully in the next experience, because who knows, right? The time that we need to take in order to change a particular frequency. Sometimes we have this expectation that because in my mind I made a change, that now I'm vibrating the frequency of the thing that I want exactly how it's supposed to happen. And it doesn't happen that way. Just because you think that you change, it doesn't mean that you're vibrating exactly the type of frequency of the opportunity that you want to achieve. And that's what the experience is teaching you, that yes, in your mind, you figure it out in one way, but in the way you gather all of that data and information, it created a frequency that in the physical reality, it came in a different way. So watching and observing that experience is not so that you can feel frustrated or insecure about the power of your manipulations or the magician in you. It's just so that you learn to refine the process, the internal process that you go through in order to attract those opportunities. You see what I mean? So are you capable? Of course you're capable. How many more experiences do you need to have to refine this process until you get the results that you're looking for? I don't know. But the idea is that through every experience, you get to learn something new. Or, if you need to tweak something within your mind and your feelings just a little bit so that it creates the ideal change. And of course, in some cases, we normally wait for an experience to see whether we change enough or not. There are other ways of doing it right now, according to science, and that's, using quantum physics. And it's about you working within yourselves, and meditation is just one of the best ways that you can do it, because it makes you aware of, the thought patterns that you're having every single moment. It's becoming self-aware of your thought patterns. Do you have to know every single moment what you're thinking? No. But at least you need to have a certain level of awareness every time you're thinking about the subject of your desire. Because if you're not self-aware, you could be thinking a lot of negative thoughts, expecting to have a beautiful ending or a magical ending or a miracle. And you see, when we have that approach, when we think that way, and then to me, that's a sign that you still haven't learned enough information in how to work with your own energy. So when I see these many swords here, I can see that one of the things that you're struggling with, Gemini, it's learning to balance how to work with your mind versus your heart. Also with your belief systems in regards to your desires, and having the level of awareness where you're conscientious of the thoughts that you're feeling, trying to get what you want. So to me, and according to the oracle, the work that needs to be done is more internal than external. And you will be able to change the nature of this energy. So instead of seeing like the magician, because the magician is pointing out to the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune, I feel like it's overpowering the reading, because it's basically the card that is determining whether I get what I want or no, whether I get the changes that I need in order to have these new beginnings. And we are sandwiching, there is a sandwich here of the two swords that, it's somehow related to the Wheel of Fortune. But when we look at the numbers of those swords, we have the 8 relating to the Strength card, and then we have the 9 relating to the Hermit card, which is the card that talks about needing to find the right information and then being able to analyze it in a way that works for you. See, that's the energy of the Hermit. And we see the energy of the Hermit, in this Nine of Cups, which is creating a lot of the turmoil. And that turmoil is coming from the past, from your past experiences, your past failures, basically. So that's why the oracle is saying, reflecting on the pool of stillness will be really beneficial. And working with your thought process is also going to help a lot, because again, the major challenge in this particular cycle that is causing you to have a lot of your energy stuck in this way. I mean, you may not feel stuck, but your energy seems to be. It has to do with how you put things together, Gemini. How you choose to understand things. And this is something that I notice about Gemini, because I have a lot of Gemini around me, and I also have Gemini in my chart. Now, I have a lot of water in my chart, which makes me more sensitive, even though I can be very analytical, because I feel like Geminis are quite analytical. But I have the water and I have the air. And somehow, it works out. But I've done a lot of work for myself. I've done a lot of work with myself and getting to know myself and getting to know my limitations. I mean, I've really gone out of my way to work internally with myself. Now, I don't know whether that's the way for you to go about it. I mean, not everybody's a priority to go and learn about themselves, but I find that it's so beneficial, because I feel like one of the things I notice about Gemini is that because you guys represent duality, or division or separation, your tendency is to pay attention to the extremes. Because I feel like sometimes you have that quality to jump from one extreme to the next. In other words, that you may struggle with balance, or finding that ideal balance between your left side of the brain and your right side of the brain, your creative side to your analytical side. You know what I mean? And this is a matter of personalities. But one of the things that I've noticed with Gemini is that they tend to gather information a little bit here and a little bit there. And you tend to create your own story. And maybe I shouldn't generalize, because maybe this doesn't apply for all the Gemini. But I have seen it quite often, to be able to point it out here in this reading, and maybe you can relate. But one of the things that I notice is that out of every situation you have it. I'm sorry for the noise, but I have a neighbor that loves to play very loud music, and what I find interesting is that he likes to put the speaker out in the window so that everybody can hear what he's listening. So it's not just about playing loud music in his house. He has to put it out the window. And, I've complained, because I feel like, I don't mind it for a little bit, but sometimes it's the whole day and it gets annoying. So I don't know if the video is picking it up or not, but I'm sorry. Anyways, Gemini, so one of the things that I notice is that there is a tendency sometimes to be very selective when it comes down to paying attention to certain information. Now, everybody is selective. Okay, so everybody does this. But I feel like for a Gemini, you have a tendency to pick a little bit here and a little bit there, and you create your own story. And although the story was not necessarily, didn't develop in that way, in your mind, you make it out to be that way. And then you present the situation from the perspective that you saw it and observed it and experienced, not so much as how you experienced it, but how your analytical mind decided to tie the information together. Again, I'm saying that we all do this, but I notice that for you, Gemini, in the way that you do it, a lot of times when you're trying to tie that information together, it makes sense to you, but it may not make sense to other people. Because to you, it's not a problem to take two things that are very different and putting it together. But to other people, in the way they reason information, may see it as that doesn't make sense. And you're like, yeah, it does. And you're like, no, it doesn't. So where did you deduct that reasoning to be able to say that purple and blue is exactly the same? And you're like, it's no problem. It's because of this and this and this and this. And the other person may say, well, that's not what I saw. You're missing something, and you're, twisting something that it didn't develop that way. And you're like, no, that's the way I saw it. But again, I noticed that you may see it that way in a given moment, but it's probably in a moment where you're stressed and you're anxious. And because of those factors, is that you get to see it in that way. So long term, you may have the time to reflect and say, oh, you know what, it's right. It wasn't like that. But in that moment of stress and needing to figure something out because your idea is, I have to find a conclusion, you end up creating this whole story that in that moment works for you, but long term it doesn't. So this is why the Temperance card is saying, hey, in this process of you understanding an experience, the reasoning that you have, you have to have a certain level of moderation, because if you accelerate the process, which is another quality of a Gemini, of needing to, rush things up, you may end up understanding a situation that it really didn't happen that way, but according to you, it did. And that can rush you into taking a decision that is short-lived, because long-term it's not going to give you the outcome that you're searching. And as a matter of fact, it can create a lot of conflicts. And here's where you have to start learning how to choose your battles, because, a lot of times, you may want to take the time to explain or to force the other people into understanding your point of view. And that requires a lot of energy. Energy that, if you don't know how to replenish, is energy that is lost. Does it mean that you're right? Not always. But you can't spend the whole entire time trying to argue with other people your point when you're not really taking the time beforehand to figure out if what you saw and what you said go hand in hand, and it relates to the experience that you're having and the other person is having. So we can't never be too quick in trying to find a solution to an issue. Sometimes we need to have this level of discernment, and little by little, accumulate the amount of information that we need, and then to find the proper moment to be able to reflect upon that information and determine what is telling us and what is teaching us. So again, Gemini, one of the things the Oracle is suggesting is this level of patience that you need in order to be able to work with your thought process. So there is, balance is coming out really strongly. And I feel like, it comes with the heart center energy. One of the things that science has been able to prove right now, Gemini, is that if our heart center is closed, it's impossible for us to achieve our goals in a way that is going to feel good. Because the heart center is the area within ourselves that connect us to the field or to the system that we're a part of. And when we're in this particular energy, we're totally disconnected. So it's impossible for you to have the level of clarity that you need in order to assess a situation and determine, as you're moving towards the future, what are the type of energies that you want to nurture. It also talks about morality. And I think that, again, that has a lot to do with your belief systems and the belief systems that you learn as a child, and also, with your spiritual food. And lastly, Capricorn, the house of Capricorn. So a lot of the work that you're doing right now, it's focusing on this house. And this is the house that, relates to your image. It relates to your habits. It relates to the things that you can offer as a person. The status quo, your status quo. So, it's this desire to achieve a certain level of stability or status amongst the people that you know, amongst your work or your co-workers, and even your personal life. So I feel like, the one thing that you're trying to achieve is kind of like the icing of the cake. There are many things that I have figured out, but this particular thing, I want it really bad because I feel like once I get it, I've achieved the most important things that I want out of life in order to make me happy. And this is kind of how I'm feeling the energy in this particular cycle. So Gemini is off the, thinking and the analyzing and over-analyzing. All right? So we need to learn to strike a balance between our mind and our heart. And pay attention to your instincts. And instincts, one of the things I notice about instincts is that sometimes my instinct is not responding to my question. And to me, that's a sign that I need to wait. But sometimes my mind doesn't want to wait. And when my mind doesn't want to wait, oh my God, that process of waiting can be hell, because sometimes what my mind is going to do is talk so much shit. And it does it because that's all it knows. The mind doesn't know any better. It only repeats what it knows. And here's the opportunity. This is when you have the opportunity to hear what your mind has to say. And you'd be surprised sometimes what your mind is telling you, especially when you're trying to wait and hear the signals of your subconscious mind or your instincts to tell you what you need to do. So the mind is creating all of this static and all of this chaos, and you're trying to pay attention to see what your instincts are telling you, and it's hard to hear. So this creates stress that ultimately pushes you to make a decision before the time, before the right moment, or at least creates a lot of anxiety because you feel like you're wasting your time and nothing is happening. And it all comes from your mind. So I normally notice that if my instincts are not saying anything, this is the time where I need to get to work with myself. And if there is any conversations that my ego starts having that is forcing me to move or to make a change, I need to work with my ego. I need to re-educate my ego. So this is one of the ways where we can deal with trauma, or we can deal with thought patterns that come from traumas or from bad experiences. Because I've learned to understand that if there is a need for more time, that's because all the energies and the frequencies that need to participate of the things that I want to attract are not available yet. It's kind of like a transplant, a donor. You can put yourself down in a list of receiving an organ, and I know this is a little bit extreme, but it's the perfect example. And you know what? You can see that your health is struggling, but you have to wait for that list. And although you may want to have somebody, you know, or you have to have, you want to have, you know, that phone call that says, hey, we got the organ, you know, you have to work with your patients, because it's not really up to you to decide how soon you're going to have that organ. It's based on vibration and energy and availability, right? All of these factors that are out of your control. So what do you do then? You know, you surrender. You surrender to what is. Well, you need to surrender. That's basically what the oracle is saying here. You need to surrender and chill out. Are you unable and incapable of receiving love and joy or whatever it is that you're wanting in this particular situation? Of course you are. The other question is, do you feel that you're worthy? Because that's a big one too. So if you feel that you're worthy, and you know that this is a path where you have done many different things and that you have yet to do some work because it's not working out in the way that you want to, and then just see it as refining the process, and see it also as you're getting really close. Eventually you strike gold, but in the meantime you need to work with the data, and also you need to work within yourself and how it is that you're using that data. All right, Gemini, thank you so much for listening. I wish you the best of luck until next time.